they've all been generous. Some of them I consider more even just friends and peers, people like Joe Lovano, who I know Joe, and Tom Harrell, um, who are the greats. Man, they're great. Forget it. They're great. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be with them. But there's one in particular, and I've already mentioned him, and I'll mention him, and I think of him every day, is Clark Terry. Clark was just the most loving and giving of information and knowledge, and he treated us as his own children, as family. There's nothing that you wouldn't do for Clark Terry. And he I can give just a story. You get down in life sometimes, gigs, you don't get the gig, you owe your rent, the tour fell through, blah blah blah. You're kind of bummed. You're thinking, man, what am I going to do? You look at the bank account, bank's overdrawn, and whatever. So you're bummed out, man. And I remember being in my house. I was living in Brooklyn at the time, so this is probably mid 80s, late 80s. Broke, and phone rings. It's Clark Terry on the phone, and he goes, "Rads." He called me Rads. He goes, "Rads." He says, I heard you on the radio, man. I just heard you. Sounded good. You okay?" And I'd be like, "I'm better now." And then he'd go, "Cool. See you later, Daddy." And he'd hang up the phone and he'd call somebody else. But it was like, to know that someone who's the greatest that ever lived, the king of jazz. I may have said this story somewhere before, but we were playing with Clark Terry, one of his last engagements at the Birdland, in New York City. And all the cats were showing up. Like Roy Hargrove showed up to sit in. I think Wynton showed up. Terrell Stafford showed up. Randy Brecker showed up. Randy had the best answer of all, which was, yeah, I said, "Man, Randy, you were killing, man." He's like, "Yeah, but Clark cut me in 5 notes or less." And but I mean, all the cats were coming, young bloods coming to sit in with Clark Terry, and it was cool. And Clark was like, "Yeah, Daddy, man, cool, whatever." So we're on the break, and Clark is there, in his suspenders, and he's eating his dinner, and he goes, "Raz," he goes, "all the young bloods coming after me." So I told him, I said, "Chief, they're just trying to figure out who's number 2. And he's like, yeah, that's right. And it's true. It's the truth. He was the greatest. And so when someone like that took the time, and I know I'm not unique, there were thousands of young students and hundreds of young students and musicians that he would nurture. And I mean, I was lucky enough, I played with him for like 40 years, but the point being, that really is soul reinforcing. That reinforces your soul when someone takes the time to give you that little boost. And that was what Clark Terry did for me on a consistent basis.